Okay, Kanal, we have what I believe, personally, for me, just me.
Let's get
This might
personal.
as well be this. This might as well just be a playoff game this upcoming weekend with the Packers as of right now.
I think this puts a good face on it. Like,
Every Seahawk and Green Bay Packers, we know about the playoffs at Lumen Field. Obviously, the previous one, Packers fans still tight to this day. Still gets
to
brought
this
up.
day.
Love to this day. They love to see. I love to see it every time. So right now we have prime time. This is prime time. Sunday night football, I believe. Yes, Sunday night football is the Seahawks and the Green Bay Packers. Very important game, especially under prime time for the Seahawks. We are first in the NFC West, but to help solidify our top spot, we're now going through the gauntlet of the NFC North, and we need to get some wins. First up, the Packers.
I mean, this is of those two games, of those three games in terms of winnability. The Bears is the most winnable. This one is probably the next most winnable. Minnesota is the least winnable.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, dude, like, where does it start with the Packers? Like Josh Jacobs, like that.
yeah,
What a season he's having.
they are. Yeah, the Packers being fifth in the NFL in rushing yards. Now this is the true test. This is the true test of our new defense after the bye. I would again, this is that litmus test. How are we going to hold Josh Jacobs, who has over 1,000 yards already on the season, 1,053 to be exact? How do we hold him? How do we hold him down? Because the last time he has faced us in Lumen Field when he was on the Raiders, and it was, if I remember correctly, it was like the anniversary for Bo. And I'm just like sitting there, I'm like, why does everyone can run 300 plus yards on us, man? So no,
Unreal,
not
dude.
this time. We have our run
Unreal.
stuffers and Byron Murphy and all of them. So I'm leaning on our D line, Leonard Williams and them. They are going to be the game changers in this whole game. It depends on what happens at the line of scrimmage from
Yeah.
there, and the offensive line
I
too.
mean, yeah, Jordan Love hasn't had a fully like a very mistake ridden season as well too, so you can't really even say get put pressure, like try to contain, put pressure, and just get home every now and then, and you can make this trouble for him.
Yeah,
21 touchdowns, 11 picks on the season. He's had a pretty decent year,
I'm
complemented by
like,
Josh Jacobs. First year in, he's trying to prove
ooh,
himself. Obviously, like it's not my fault that the Raiders sucked. Um, and so it's just a pretty dangerous combination. And they got guys out there like Jaden Reed with 6 touchdown receptions. Like
yeah.
I don't know where to start with this one, dude.
Um, I would just say that yeah, because they don't rush with Jordan Love like they would Malik Willis. So even if Jordan Love was to get injured, they have a they have a nice like dual threat running quarterback right behind him, right? Which he proved in earlier in the season that he can play as well. So if anything, our offense needs to be able to hold off their defense. Quay Walker has almost 100 tackles on the season, as well as some other players like Rashawn Gary. Like this is the typical Green Bay defense. I'm just talking at this point, Luca Van Ness and all of them. But we have to be able to run the ball and at least establish the ground game to some extent. This team against the run. They're top 10 against the run.
Yeah.
So
And I think it's cliched for us at this point, but yeah, I mean, trenches has been the story this whole season.
trenches and Gino not making a mistake, because Gino, when the games get rough, he can make a mistake. Like he has 14 touchdowns to his 12 interceptions on the season so far. So I don't need two interceptions to make a nice 14-14, like basically a mini Jameson, if you will. Not Jameson, Jameis Winston, if you will.
Yeah, and I think I can add on to that by saying special teams
Special
improved
teams.
for the Seahawks last week.
Can it
And
stay improved?
can it stay improved? Like it's very a low bar, but just as long as we can't be making mistakes. We're playing this game at home. It's kind of embarrassing. We have a losing home record. We're basically the Cowboys in that aspect. Cowboys
Yep.
only have one win at home this season. It must suck to be a home season ticket holder. Same can go for our team. And we've lost some pretty bad ones at home. Rams, Giants were to name a couple.
49ers, if you remember
Bills,
that one.
49ers. Like, yeah, I think I'm missing
All of
one.
them. No, that's all four of the losses we have to our three wins.
Yeah. And so, if we can, first and foremost, keep the mistakes to a minimum.
Yes.
Second, win the battle in the trenches. And then third, let your stars shine.
Let your star shine.
If we play in that order, I think we got this one on lockdown because star power. I mean, Jair Alexander is the star for that Packers secondary. He isn't. He didn't play last week against the very close loss to the Lions. I think it was 34-31. And so, if he's out there, is another skilled player. But we have so many elite players, borderline elite players, let's say Pro Bowl players. If we can stay, stick to our fundamentals and let our stars shine, I think we win this one on paper. But it's such a coin toss with us.
It's a lot going against us in this one, only because the Packers have only lost against Philadelphia, Minnesota, and Detroit, and those are all playoff teams, right? They weren't even that bad of losses. They were actually like by one score in all of those games they lost in. So, if anything, it's going to be one. I don't even have to look at it. Vegas is already going to probably say like, man, it might be like 4 points, 6 points, 7, maybe a full 7 against the Seahawks. But in this case, man, we just got to fight.
Yeah, I think right now Vegas has them as a 3-point favorite.
Okay. Yeah, so by a field goal, which I feel like we're going to cover that spread for sure. I think it's going to get decided by a field goal. Don't know from who. Hopefully it's from us, and if not, I hope it's decided by touchdowns and not field goals.
And, in all fairness, the Packers, one of the storylines for the Packers has been they had a pretty easy schedule. And I mean, so did we to some extent. But I'm just going to rattle off their wins.
Go ahead.
So we already mentioned the losses. So they've won 16-10 against Indianapolis. Should have been, that's closer than it should have been. They won 30.
This is early season, mind you, because everyone had their early season stuff, even us.
Yeah, and 30-14 to Tennessee.
Okay.
24-19 to the Rams. 34-13 to the Cardinals. 24-22 to Houston, who's been struggling a lot as of late. Jacksonville, they beat 30-27.
I think that was when they gave Houston their first loss on the season, if I remember correctly, actually.
Yeah, I think you're right. And then it's been kind of a slide since then.
Yeah.
They beat the Bears 20-19. Yeah, division battle, but it's, the Bears still, come on. San Francisco.
No, that tells you everything because that was down by 1 point, though, too. So.
Yeah. And San Francisco 38-10 they beat, and Miami 30-17 they beat. So they have a good mix of wins against teams with winning records. I mean,
they are vulnerable. They are vulnerable to the pass, so that's one thing we got to take advantage of. And then, of course, if we can get some runs in, maybe a rushing score. You never know, man.
Yeah, and that's going to be the tough bit too. It's going to be a real test for the offensive line because Charbonnet had a lot of success last week. We still don't know K9 status. I think it's still up in the air, at least at the time of this recording.
And we're going up against a front
stout
four.
Yeah,
they got a front four over there, so. It's up to our O-line to hold it down, and I hope I'm really, honestly, I have high expectations for our D-line. After what they've been showing us the past 4 weeks all together, I need to see something.
Yeah, and it's not coming at a place of, being high on our horse right now. It's just kind of the level at which this defensive line is performing has elevated across the board.
They gave us hope for a playoff, so at this point, let me hold on to those hopes.
Yeah, and, they should be getting... Uchenna mixing in with young guys like Derek Hall and Boye Mafe should provide a little bit of an elevated performance from that unit, right? Because you're cycling in fresh legs. But Matt LaFleur is an offensive, guru in that sense. I mean, he's making Jordan Love look like Aaron Rodgers at times, and so not the Aaron Rodgers that's on the Jets. This is a tough one to predict. What do you think is going to come out of this one?
I think it's going to come down to it's either going to one of two ways. It's either we fluff it up and the Green Bay Packers get away with the win and we have to recover in our next 3 games or next 2 games before we get to the Rams, or it's going to come down to like one hard fought drive to the last person scoring, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown.
Yeah, and every week is a playoff.
I hope it's us.
I think the Seahawks have the right mindset at least going into it. I think the Packers might be a little bit more on cruise control, but everybody is taking these last few weeks seriously. So there's no weeks off for anybody. Even the Lions, it might come down to the point where they need to play their starters going into the last week to secure that number 1 spot.
I think it's even going to come down to all of NFC West is like they're playing for something right now. So everyone's, I guess, on the NFC West side, we're playing for, like, even if we're number one in the NFC West right now, it don't mean anything if we lose the rest of these games. So
Yeah.
we are definitely playing for the
We could
division
still
and
finish
for
at the bottom
playoffs.
of the division. That's how ridiculous it is.
Yes, even though we're 8-5.
With 4 weeks to go, we could finish at the bottom of the division with a one-game
This is
lead.
facts. This is facts. So yeah, definitely a very important game. This is by all intentions and everything like that. This is our Super Bowl right now.
Every
And I'm
week's a
fine with
Super
that.
Bowl. Every week's a playoff game. Every week's a Super Bowl. If we end up winning this game, we might actually. I think we would play the Packers at Lumen Field too, if we win the NFC West, because I think the Packers would kind of come in at 6,
Yes.
and we would be playing them a second time in the season too.
Yeah, if the season ended today in the playoffs, we would play them because
Yeah.
we're third and they're sixth right now. So unless we'll see what happens. So
Yeah, and so final call. Who do you got this game?
I'm still taking my Seahawks at the all the way, all the way, man.
If it's a 3, if the Packers are favored by 3, then I gotta take Seahawks as well too. It's just these close
Honestly,
games, man.
I would say like other games, even for both Packers and Vikings, it's like, man, these are lose games. But right now, with how the Seahawks are playing, we can, at least with the Packers to start with, we'll talk about Vikings when we get there. But with the Packers right now, I have confidence that we can win that game and get up to 9-5
Yeah,
and
and
get
I'm
closer to a double-digit win season for a change.
Could you, we didn't picture we'd be in this position at the halfway point in the season. Like going into the bye week, we thought, all right, so do we tank? Like, what do we do? Like we were talking about throwing Sam Howell out there and just see, like, let him cook and see what happens, right? Like
We did,
we didn't think we'd be in
definitely
this position.
never gave him a chance.
Yep. And so I'll take the Seahawks as well. But you got anything left for the folks at home?
I got nothing else but go Hawks.
Go Hawks! All right. Well, you heard it here. Thanks for joining us here at Miss Revs. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you again next time.
Peace.